Hey Buns, so the first tier in the raid series for Endwalker has been added to the game, that being Asphodelos. The normal mode version is in the game now. It came with patch 6.01 this week, and Savage will come with patch 6.05 expected on January 4th. Now there are 4 bosses here in this raid tier, and each boss is on a different layer or a different circle. There's 4 circles in Asphodelos, but in spite of that, none of it actually feels pointless. I want to talk about the raid story, of course. That's going to be heavy spoilers, so I'll put that in a spoiler section later in the video, but I will be showing footage from these fights throughout this video, and so if you'd rather not know the identity of some of the bosses that we will be fighting, then maybe it's better just to listen until I get to the warning of the spoiler section. The story is related to the main story quest. Like, it adds on extra. It's a little cherry on top of the main story quest. So if I were you, I would not want to hear about the raid story if I have not finished the Endwalker story, because it's going to lessen the impact of some of the events that should be a surprise for you when you get to them in Endwalker. I want to talk about the new gear that they added that you can get from doing these raids, and how that fits into the gearing up structure. I'll explain gearing up for people that are new. I want to talk about my general impressions of the fights so far. Of course, yes, these are only the normal mode versions that Savage will release later, but I want to give my thoughts on what we have now, and maybe some speculation about how Savage could be, general aesthetic, mechanics, all that kind of stuff. So that part will not be spoilery. Later on, we will get in the spoiler. But like I said, I will be showing footage from the fights themselves, so be mindful of that. Okay, let's hop to it. Okay, so first let's talk about gear. So by killing bosses in Asphodelos, you can get currency for the new iLevel 580 limbo gear. There are 4 bosses in Asphodelos, 1 for each floor, or circle as they're called, and you can get 1 gear token from each boss per week for a total of 4 tokens every week. Now the last boss from the 4th circle of Asphodelos also drops a guaranteed blade token, and that goes straight to your bag when you kill him. So you're guaranteed to get it if you kill him. You get 1 blade every week, and you want to make sure that you do it every week, because once you save up 7 blade tokens, you can turn in the 7 blades for a very nice weapon. Now, those weapons are not in the game yet, but they will be added with the patch 6.05 on January 4th. So you want to start collecting them now. What I'm saying is make sure you kill at least the last boss from the 4th circle every single week. But, I mean, ideally, you can go ahead and get gear tokens from everybody, right? As for the gear tokens from each boss, as you can see here at the vendor, now there are 2 different vendors that you can visit. Just up to you, just whatever's more convenient for you. Each limbo armor piece costs a certain number of unsung tokens. The limbo hat, for example, costs 2 unsung helm tokens. The chest costs 4 chest tokens, and so on. Now, since you can only get 1 token from each boss per week, like we went over, most of these items require more than 1 token to get the actual item. So it would be smart to plan ahead what you want to roll for, rather than just rolling need on everything willy-nilly. Like, I've made that mistake in the past where I just wasn't even thinking, I just click need. But that's a problem, because if you do that, then you might end up with like 1 unsung chest token, 1 for the hand, 1 for the hat, 1 for the pants, and you don't have enough to get anything before the next lockout. So like this week, I was smart this time. I planned ahead. I got 2 foot tokens from circle 1, circle 2. Then I got 2 gloves tokens from circle 3, circle 4. So I was able to get my new gloves and shoes this week. And my friend got 4 chest tokens, so they're already running around with their new chest piece. If you're not sure what to roll for and you'd like some advice on desirable pieces to get right now for your job, I would recommend checking the balance Discord for that. Namely, check the pinned posts. Check the pinned posts in your respective job questions channel or the job resources channel for recommendations, but don't get too worried about that. Don't worry too much, because the new crafted gear, which is also iLevel 580, same as this limbo gear, we're assuming, but most likely, like 99%, will be iLevel 580. That's going to release with the patch for Savage on January 4th. And the crafted gear is often as good, if not better, than the normal raid gear, or the gear that the accessories or weapons you can get from Extreme Trials, because you can slap 5 materias on crafted gear. That's a lot of stats you can squeeze onto crafted gear. Now, crafted gear can be expensive, but maybe you have some crafter friends that can help you out. But of course, whether or not the crafted gear is going to be best for your job will depend on your job, will depend on what substats are important for you with your job. But basically, like if you're not raiding Savage week 1, you don't necessarily need a full crafted set. I guess your priority would be more item level. The item level for the crafted gear is going to be the same as a normal raid gear, so don't stress too much about this. Of course, the patch on January 4th, in addition to crafted gear, will give us the new tombstone gear. I'm referencing this infographic created by Veracity. I will link to it in the description box, which very neatly explains the gearing structure as it stands right now, where we are now, like what's available now, what will be available after patch 6.05 if you prefer like more visual explanation of how all this works. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask about that in the Sprout Help channel of my Discord. 580 gear is now. Get it. That's what I'm saying. Also, can we talk about how beautiful these sets are? The limbo gear is so elegant. It's so free flowing. It looks comfy as well. Like it's very dignified, but also comfy. And I think my personal favorite is the fending one though. Like it's quite regal. They give a little silver crown. Like I said, elegant. Elegant is the word that comes to mind to describe many of these sets. Though I also really like maiming. Maiming, actually, I might like. It's hard to decide if I like that more than fending, but because I'm always gonna be a sucker for the thigh straps. Like I love that thigh strap. One thing I love about the maiming set is that it has this asymmetry. It's so pleasant to look at because you have like the long white sleeve with the black glove, then you have no sleeve and the white glove with the long draping fabric counterbalancing the long sleeve. So it's very thoughtfully done. It just feels so perfectly balanced. Striking, of course, very similar. It's just a recolor of the maiming one, so it's also excellent. The scouting one feels a bit more traditional, so I'm less crazy about it. I do like the mesh collar jewelry there. On females, you've got a little like gap on your shorts, which I think looks better than for the boys. You just like have normal pants, I think, which is less interesting. And like, I think boys should have gotten the booty shorts, but that's just my opinion. Aiming is a recolor of scouting, so not much more to say on that. The casting and healing ones, they share a model, but I personally prefer the lighter one because I think it better emphasizes these like long, thin ribbons that give structure to this otherwise like droopy drapery. Like, also, the only thing is I'm kind of not sure about the torso part. I almost wish that the back and the front were swapped, but maybe that would be too much booba. Overall, they're all gorgeous, and I really am kind of splitting hairs here. I don't think anybody got a bad looking set. They all look great. Though you will need to clear Savage to dye it. So that is why glamour is the end game. Moving on to my general impressions of the fights. I think we gotta talk about that music because like the first time that I heard this little interlude, and you know what I'm talking about if you've heard it, I was like, what was that? Ding, 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 ding. It's like a 1920s player piano sound. It's very weird, but it actually works. It's like, I think they were trying to make it seem retro. This is beyond retro. Like this is vintage territory. And then we're thrown right back into like spooky, doomy raid boss music, and I love it. I really love it. It's weird. I love how they're not afraid to experiment with music in this game. Like I never know what the hell to expect. And that's especially true of the final boss music, which was so fun. It's like so melodic and musical, and sometimes it's hard to describe music. You just gotta hear it. You gotta hear it to enjoy it, but it's like, it's very hype. I think that once I heard the music on the final boss, then I heard the melody better on the previous bosses. So now, like, I enjoy the previous boss music more now that I've heard the final boss music. The first boss is extremely cool. It's probably one of my favorite bosses, just in the concept. Like, he's a jailer. Okay, imagine this. A boss that's a jailer, that's his concept. And so we use the imagery of shackles and chains to make a super cool and intimidating boss. it actually, they did it. They did pull it off. It is possible, and he didn't even have to take his shirt off, though. That's a shame, really. He really should have had the shirt off. He looks super cool. I loved dodging the flails. Like, you see, like, which side is he swinging the flail on? Even though I myself I'm usually the one flailing. Maybe that's why I like this boss so much. Like, I see myself in him. Though, new job, maybe? Instead of with a chain, that would be awesome. Like a whip. The second boss is the hippocampus. And the first thing I said when I saw the intro cutscene was like, oh my god, look at his neck. His neck, it's like the roof of a mouth. Oh, it's so weird. It's like, that part. Who had the idea to be like, what if we design a boss where the scary thing is like, he's like that. In terms of mechanics, I thought the elevation factor in this fight is super cool. Like, you need to be on the raised part or in the grates where the water is flooding in. And I'm curious to see how will that mechanic evolve in Savage. I like the new multi-layered attack marker on the boss where it's like the yellow arrow, then there's a red arrow. Though I have a feeling like on Savage, those helpful markers are not going to be there to tell you where to not stand. And I'll have to use my own hippocampus to figure it out. My hippocampus never puts his head back on. That's the problem. The third boss is the Phoenix with a lot of fire to dodge. I'm sorry. Fire. I heard a lot of people complaining that the arena is too orange, so it's really hard to dodge the orange AoEs because orange. And I didn't really have that problem. Like, I can see the AoEs just fine. It's just, I'm not getting out of it. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I do wonder if this boss will be the mount reward for the tier, though. That would be pretty sweet. And finally, the fourth circle boss, this vampire guy. We got the jailer. We got Sire Denathras. No, I'm kidding, because he's hot. Well, actually, you know, he doesn't have Matt Mercer as a voice actor, and that definitely loses him some hotness points. Honestly, like, all jokes aside, it is a tragedy that this raid series is not voice acted, because, like, the raid series is a major part of an expansion. I feel like at least make the boss voice lines voice acted. Like, it could have benefited so much from voice acting. Because it's not voice acted, I don't know whether to say Asphodelos or Asphodelos or Asphodelos. Like, I don't know. Anyways, the boss itself is quite simple, and it has to be because this is a super easier find version of the Savage version of this fight, which is bound to be an insanely challenging encounter, it being the final fight in the raid tier. On Savage, this is going to be a monster of a fight, I have no doubt of that. So right now on normal mode, we can only see what different elements are in play and how could these elements be made more complicated. There are different elements literally on the floor. There's like lightning, there's poison, and there are orbs with tethers. So, just pray it's not dark rampant. Just pray it's not anything but that, please. I remember in Wrath, in Icecrown, there was a vampire boss where, like, you get bit and then you have to go bite someone else or you'll get mind controlled, and then they have to bite other people, or they get mind controlled and then they need to bite other people. That was so cool. I would like to see something like that, but I doubt it. I'm reminiscing, I guess. Anyway, let's move on to the spoiler section because there's a lot I want to say about story. So I'm going to give you a second. If you need to leave now, that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. And now is the spoiler time, the spoiler zone, heavy spoiler zone. Talking about story for this raid, which is related tangentially to the Endwalker main story. It's complementary, it's on top. It's adding to Endwalker main story. If you've done the Eden story for Shadowbringers, then you will understand how much the Eden story added to the world of the first, the world that Shadowbringers focused on, and how much context it gave to that world and how much it enriched that world's lore. So I'm hoping that we have the same kind of thing happen with these raids, and it seems like it's possible, at least for now. Now, this being the first tier, it's hard to say, because there's just so many questions right now. There is a lot of things we want to know and a lot of things that we can't know. Whenever you kill the final boss, you think you're about to get a whole lot of answers about everything, and he's like, I'm not going to give you the answers that you want. I'm not going to tell you I guess it's for the best because they want to keep your interest. This is a story that has to span throughout the entire expansion. And I think it's something that the Eden raids and Shadowbringers did quite well. And I'll never forget how much time we spent speculating on like who's the identity of that person. And so maybe that's something we're going to see here too. So being more specific now, I kind of give people like a little buffer area of the spoilers. Okay, so I was really excited to be able to return to Elpis. Elpis is a place that I have fixated on extremely hard. And I really wanted any reason at all to go back there. And so this raid story has offered us the opportunity to do that. And I cannot tell you how excited I am about that. I love the fact this is going to be the centerpiece of the raid story. And we'll be able to keep returning here, keep getting more lore and information about this place that is just so beautiful and that I'm so attached to. So that's all great. There is a bit of a time travel problem though, I think. Because the way that this is explained is that you're able to go back in time, and then when you return, you are returning to the same timeline that you left, and that is a closed loop. That is actually a problem. You cannot eat an apple and then go back in time and burn down the tree that produced that apple, and then return back to the original timeline and still be eating the apple. The alternative is that literally every single time that you change something and you return, you're returning to a new timeline. And what this would imply is that every time you do that, you leave, you go back in time, you change something, you return to a new timeline. But in timeline A, all of those people think that you left and you never came back, and you do that over and over every time you go back. My other issue with this stuff is maybe something more to do with me as a person and the way that I think I would personally handle this situation, which is likely maybe not the best way to handle it. If I was sent back in time to a place where I know all of these people, or maybe not all, but a lot, most will die in a fire or die horribly from monsters. I don't think that I could not tell every single person about that. Like, I wouldn't just tell one person, and the one person is like, it's gonna be fine, I got it. And I'd be like, okay. No, if I had an opportunity to return there, I don't think I'd be able to help myself. I would need to let every single person know, hey, this is happening, this is coming, you need to get ready. I would literally be like Chicken Little. I'd be like Zeppelin Little, run around, tell everybody the sky is falling, and like, I would just seem like an insane person, actually, now that I'm saying it out loud. But it's something that it weighs heavy on my heart whenever I'm going through these story quests, because I'm building relationships with these characters. You're getting to love and enjoy these characters. You want them to be happy. You want to protect them. That's like one of the reasons that you are fighting, is to protect this world. And knowing what's to come, it's rather grim. It's rather upsetting. One of the worst gifts that you could probably have would be knowing how people die, or knowing how you're going to die, or knowing how, like, being able to look at someone and know how they would die. This would be incredibly traumatic. This would be horrible. This would be a curse to carry around. And that's a little bit how I feel whenever I am in Elpis. Now, I assume not every single one of the people that you meet is dying in a fire or is dying from a monster, like eating them alive. But like a lot of them are gonna, right? So I don't know. I want to help them, I want to save them, I want to protect them. And it's cast a little bit of a shadow over the story. Okay, so maybe I'm just being extra. Maybe I'm like thinking about it too hard. That's likely. Moving on. I also really like, I grow attached to characters very quickly, and that's why I want to protect them. La Habrea. Let's talk about La Habrea. I'm very interested to see what he's going to be like. I think I'll be a little disappointed if he ends up being like the bad guy. I think that would be really predictable and boring, and I think it's not going to be the case. I wonder if it was he who was responsible for like the bit of craziness that his son went through that caused his son to flee Pandaemonium, and that's why you meet his son like at the gates. He's the only one that you find at the gates. But I don't know. That's like way wild speculation. I'm really curious to find out more about Laha bread. Is the Laha bread cold or is the Laha bread hot? How do we warm up the Laha bread? I'm like 99% sure that the kid we're talking to is Elidibus. It has to happen because Elidibus recognizes us in the main story. He's got to send us back. So I'm quite sure that's him. I'm just thinking back on the Eden raids from Shadowbringers and how invested in Gaia and Reen everybody got. Like, they are main cast characters now. And yes, Reen was in the main story, but Gaia was through the raid story, and she feels just as important as Reen. And so, God, imagine if like you knew that the first was going to go through a final days later, and like Reen and Gaia would be there. Like, that would be horrible. So this is bothering me a lot, clearly. Like, I've talked about it many times. I feel like I'm kind of treading the same old ground, but I just want I want to get all my thoughts out, get all my worries, concerns, and hopes out. And I hope that there is hope for our friends in Elpis, at least some of them. Aside from all those doom and gloom concerns, I'm really, really interested in this story. Like, it asks a lot of interesting questions about where we're going, what's in the next layer, and what's in the layer under that. And will we be able to maybe change how things look as we progress through, like with what happened with Eden, where like you could see the area change the more progress that you made. I wonder if that's going to happen in Pandaemonium 2. I'm looking forward to it. In any case, I think I've said more than enough about these raids for today, but I would really love to hear your thoughts on all of this, not just the story stuff, but what do you think about the gear? Do you like your gear set for your job, for your role? Are you finding the raids themselves fun? Do you like the music? All that stuff, please let me know in the comments section down below. And if you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free just by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow warriors of light. I almost said friends and warriors of light. Yes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Your Loperate friends. Yay.